When rapid speed down to 2500.
Point wherever you reduce speed to 180.
Black box.
All right. Hey, everyone. Welcome back to KP's Black Box. It's been a little while, so we're calling this season 2. I've had a lot of travel and a lot of business, and I'm going to just make up a bunch of BS and tell you why. Just nothing more than me just being a bum and not getting in here recording, right? Don't make excuses, just be honest, right?
Sometimes that's
just
the best
keep
way.
it real. Yeah. So today we're kicking off season 2 here with one of my great friends, great human being, and I'm excited to interview you today, Dash. This is my good friend, Dash Wong. Dash is a retired veteran. I'm not going to spoil why he's retired, but I'll let Dash share that with us. But he is an amazing human being, and I thought, man, kicking off season 2, who better than to have Dash Wong on the show? So welcome, my friend.
Wow. Well, thank you for that. I had no idea I was opening up for season 2.
Yes.
That's a big honor.
It's you, man.
Jeez.
You're the one.
I appreciate it. Hopefully I don't mess this up too much.
You know what? It is what it is, brother. We'll grind through it. Hey, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. Trying to control. I got a little shivering going on.
I'm kind of a little chilly myself.
Yeah, we started doing this cold plunge challenge, and I actually think that's how we reconnected. We didn't talk for a little bit.
Yeah.
And you started doing cold plunges.
Yep.
Your 30-day challenge.
Right, with Luke Meacham, Saucy Paws.
Saucy balls. I like that. And I started jumping on the train, and one thing led to another. And thanks so much for having me out here and bringing me out. This is an amazing production. This is beautiful.
Yeah. Well, I'm fortunate enough to sit behind the or in front of the camera and be on a mic. But the real smarts is on the other side of this. Jordan Miller, shout out to Jordan, and then her brother, who, Ian, who's a good friend of yours, helped set up the studio back in COVID. So, when we were kind of shut down, we were like, man, we got to do something. And Ian was unemployed because of COVID. And so I was like, well, why don't you come work with me, help me set up a studio, help me go into this digital age. And, here we are. This used to be my office.
Okay.
And so we turned it into now the studio. I fired myself, got my I Love Me wall out of the way, and turned it into a studio.
That's positive reinforcement.
There you go.
I like it.
So, you've seen some of my podcasts in the past, and one of the things that we always like to do before we get rolling into the story about you is honor folks like yourself with a toast, and that is for our heroes who have served. And I know most of the guys in the community don't like to be called heroes, but you are, and we're thankful for you. And I always like to do a little toast beforehand to just honor our veterans, those who have gone before us and those who are grinding it out right now. The idea here is keep the faith, do hard things, and thank you for your service. There's your camera over there. Cheers to you folks out there still getting it. Cheers to you, Dash.
Cheers to you, brother.
Little Johnny Walker Blue Label.
Wow.
That went down easy, right?
God, it's so good.
It's great.
It's oaky.
Yeah. Little peat moss, little oaky.
On that cheers or that toast.
Pull your mic in just a little bit so I can
Grab
hear you
it
a little
from
bit.
here.
Yeah, there you go.
On that toast, it makes you reflect on guys that are still serving. Because you were in the Marine Corps.
Semper Fi.
Yep. I was in the Navy. We don't have something cool like that.
You don't have a cool say.
Who
You're
got?
Vikings. I mean, don't you have some growl or something?
Ooh.
Yeah.
No.
Hua or ooh, that's the army.
Yeah. You know, I reflect.
Derailed that serious.
Yeah, that serious moment. Sorry.
No, it's good. I think about it, and it only comes in waves, right? Because I've been out now for 5 years, retired, in the ending of 2019, and there are moments where I'll pour a drink, and I just think about guys just getting wrecked. Like I was a Swick, so my job was predominantly on small boats and small crafts, and
Okay, so let me stop you there.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't know what Swick is.
Yeah.
So, can you? What is that? An acronym?
it is. Yep. So it stands for Special Warfare Combat and Craft Crewman.
Okay.
The sexy way I like to put it is if you've ever watched Jason Statham in Transporter,
Yeah.
where he's driving people around, just whipping those cars around. That's kind of us for, the special operations community and special forces. So your Green Berets, your Navy SEALs, your door kickers.
Yeah. The
It was-
assaultmen.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was predominantly our responsibility for inserts and extract platforms, whether that be on boats or crafts or dirt bikes, side-by-sides, however we could, just taking something off of their plate where they could focus more on the mission set and less on the infill. So kind of a cool transporter.
That's awesome. Yeah, you did some cool things, and
Did.
we have some fellow friends and buddies who served in that world with you, and I want to get into that today, and I want to talk about how that experience shaped who you are as a person, shaped who you are as an entrepreneur, and I want to share with folks, if it's okay, that you've got a book release coming out, and if it's not okay, too bad.
Yep.
I just spoiler alert. Dash is writing a book.
Doing the classic old writing a book.
Yeah.
But it's definitely not going to be what people or what guys that came from my community write about. We'll probably talk about it on this podcast, but it's more where my mentality and my mindset came up from when we dive into it, where I started, where the roots of it came from, which is my life, my childhood. But on the toes, I just want to say, like, those guys that are out there grinding, those guys that are out on deployments, that are overseas, that are serving our country, what we said in the Navy is those are that are standing the watch.
Yeah.
Man, after standing the watch and being relieved of it, you have so much more of appreciation for it.
Yeah.
And I'm so much more thankful for it. I never understood that term, right? Thank you for your service. It's kind of like cliche. I'm like, dude, yeah, you're welcome.
Yeah.
Like, what do you want me to say? But now when I think about my brothers who are still serving, I'm so thankful.
Yeah.
I'm so thankful.
Yeah. Well, guys like you and me who have done some things with our fellow brothers, and when you're in it, you don't think of yourself as anything special. You don't think of yourself as a hero. But those dudes that are still getting it, they're heroes, man. I love.
In my eyes, yep.
And it's still a 100% volunteer force. Nobody's making them do it.
Yeah.
They could quit whenever they want to. Might be some consequences, but nobody's going to force you, especially in the community you came from. You're expected to perform at a very high level.
Right.
And there's an expectation there that if you can't perform at that level anymore, it's time to give up the yoke and let somebody else have a shot at it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we'll talk about that today, and giving up the yoke, 'cause that's kind of what you had to do.
Yeah.
Right? You didn't want to.
No.
But consequence of living this human life, some things happen to you, and I'd love for you to share how you dealt with that. But let me back you up a little bit, and let's talk about Dash Wong, the young man before the Navy, and that life. So you grew up in Hawaii.
It's born in paradise, baby.
Born in paradise. Love it. So Tell me about that experience. I know a little bit, but I'd just love listeners to hear about your early childhood.
Oh, my childhood was great. Palm trees and rainbows, beautiful beaches. No, I guess the quickest, most elaborate way I could say is I was born in hell.
Mm. In paradise, but in hell.
In paradise, but in hell. Even the constructs of my name was written on the lines of abandonment. So
Jeez.
my name is Dash because my birth certificate was one-lined when I was born.
And what do you mean by that?
So my mom abandoned me at the hospital. She didn't want me.
Jeez.
And then my father left as well. But when you're born in a military hospital, you can't just leave.
So born in the military. So your father, your biological father, was
Yeah, he was a Navy submariner.
okay.
I don't understand the whole construct of it. I know there's a bunch of lies in there that I can't really extrapolate because it was back in the 80s.
Okay.
But being in the military now, you don't get to just leave a child.
Yeah.
You know, I have 2 children of my own. So there's some inconsistencies there that, you know, bygones be bygones. You kind of just have to let it go.
Yeah.
But when it came to my name, like, my mother was very adamant, like, I had no name for you. So I left. I did not want you. And I was like, it's so hard to swallow. So they nicknamed me. They're like, we can't call him Hyphen.
Yeah.
So I guess we'll call him Dash.
How did that affect you, man? I mean, I have 5 kids, 5 grandchildren. Blessed, man. Blessed to have those young people in my life. And Kathleen and I made those, you know, through God, through God's image. Yeah. To hear someone say to you, I didn't want you, and that's your biological mom, what kind of impact? Today,
Yeah.
How does that make you feel?
I mean, if we only have the 60 minutes that we have here, I don't think I
You know
could
what?
dive into
Screw that clock.
Yeah.
We're just going to talk.
I don't think I could dive into the full aspects of how that made me feel without bringing up Christ.
Yeah.
Because not having a longing or a family or a bloodline or something to rely on was probably the hardest part of my life, even through my teams, graduating some of the most elite special operations programs possible. It was all in search of belonging to something, right? I was in search of a brotherhood. I was in search of a community. I was in search of family.
Yeah.
And I was touching on the bases. I was hitting the wave tops of it and almost feeling the camaraderie, right? The bond. Nothing compared until I finally gave my life to Christ. And then I realized where I actually belonged.
Wow.
And it only made me, this is a really hard thing to unravel, but it only made me appreciate everything that I've went through after I accepted him.
Yeah.
Because now I look back on it and be like, that's actually a blessing, because now I have such a longing to be with him and to worship him and to thank him.
Wow.
Whereas if I just had a normal upbringing, I wouldn't have that perspective of having nothing to having everything.
So am I hearing you say that these bad things that happened to you, these tragic moments of life, shaped who you are as a believer?
Yeah. I would say, you know, I'm 34.
Yeah.
So I'm still on, I'd say, a babe walk with Christ of learning, right?
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to sound egotistical and say I have it all figured out. But it's going through hardships and tough times in your life. When you're going through them, when you're in the thick of it, you don't understand it,
Yeah.
right? And we just had a really good sermon about the book of Job,
Yeah.
right? And
Shout out to Akeem.
Akeem.
It was a great message
that was
he gave. Yeah.
beautiful message. And there was so much truth in it. Because what you do in the fire, what you do in that hardship or that circumstance, that's not what defines you. Like, that's just a time period that you're going through. You can make 1,000 mistakes. You can complain. You could throw your fist up in the air. You can do all these things.
Yeah.
But when you come out of it, because nothing lasts forever.
Yeah.
Everything will pass. Once you come out of it, if you look back on it, there's like almost a longing for it. You're like,
Yeah.
man,
So
an appreciation for hardships.
yeah, and in those hardships, I mean, your mother. If and this is me, I'm asking questions now based off what I've seen you post on your Instagram and where you've started sharing your story, and then you've had someone say, hey, Dash, you probably should put this in a book.
Yeah.
But what I remember is that your mom, and this is no disparagement to your mom, she was trying to survive, right? And that's, most human beings are doing things in life simply out of survival or learned behavior.
Sure.
So these learned behaviors that you had, your mom was having you go to the grocery store or go to the market.
Steal liquor.
And steal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was 7. No, I was 9 when I started shoplifting. So we can touch back on my childhood. So I grew up in Honolulu, Hawaii. I was abandoned. Got back into my mom's life. Father was out of the issue. No idea where he went. And my mom first she was an exotic dancer. So we know what that means.
Yeah.
Then
Sorry, I don't mean
things
to laugh, but yeah.
it's pretty funny, huh?
Yeah.
That escalated into prostitution.
Geez.
She got severely addicted to meth and a couple other hard drugs that at the time I didn't really know what they were. But going through that, my childhood, because I have 2 kids now, and I look at their lives and I look at my life now. It wasn't until I had children that I realized how shitty my life was as a kid. Like I'm actually shocked.
Yeah.
But going through the trauma, you just if you
you're
don't know
surviving.
any difference,
Yeah.
you're just in it. You don't know how bad it is.
Yeah.
But now I look back and I was like, I actually went through that. That's incredible. Homelessness, abandonment, no money. I used to pick lays at cemetery, or I used to pick flowers off these trees at a cemetery. Not the graves.
Okay.
But the trees. I used to string them up on fishing lines and sell lays to tourists in downtown Waikiki. Not because I felt sorry for myself, but I was hungry.
Yeah.
And I came up with a creative way. I said, well, I could sell these for $5 and go get a hot dog. And my biggest motivator factor was I wanted to play Metal Gear Solid. I wanted to play this arcade game at this liquor store. They had this it was Metal Gear Slug or something. And I was like, dude, if I could just make a couple bucks, I could play this game all day. And I lived at a bus stop. Like I took my children and my wife to this bus stop in downtown Waikiki, and I was like, Dad lived there. It's still there. And I used to take showers right at the beach.
Crazy.
It was rough. It was so rough.
Yeah. Did you see it as rough then?
Yeah. And here's why. I got beaten unconscious as a child. Like it was
By who?
by all these men that would come through the house.
Oh,
So
geez.
my mom had multiple pimps, multiple people in charge of her schedule, of the streets that she bet she was on, multiple drug dealers coming through the house that my mom owed money to. She didn't have the money, so she had to pay in other means. And I was stuck there. And I remember hearing the parties. I remember hearing the debauchery. I could hear the screams. And I was just left to my room. And part of the reason why I say I was raised in hell is because I remember getting beaten so bad. I'll never forget. And we talked about this in the car ride as we're coming here. Is like, what was the founding factors of your mindset?
Yeah.
That helped you overcome like some of the trainings or whatever I went through. I was 7 years old, and I remember crawling into my closet as a little child. Like I can still remember grabbing the carpet and pulling myself into this closet. And in the closet there was these stacked shelves. And I remember looking at the top shelf saying, if I could just, I was small. I was a small little tiny runt. remember looking at the top shelf. I was like, if I could just get up there, I know they'll find me. It was a fun, like, it was like this fun nuance that they had, like beat the kid. It was like kick the can, except it was me. I was the can.
Hmm.
And it was funny to them. And I remember, like, if I can get up there, I won't be able to hide, but I'll make their lives more difficult.
Hmm.
If they're going to make my life difficult, I'm not just going to be this easy can you can kick around. So I'm going to climb to that top shelf. I climbed on the top shelf, and I stuck myself in this cubby. And my eye was swollen shut. My nose was bleeding, and my tooth was wiggly. I remember pulling my tooth out. And just blood profusing, like I was wrecked. And in that moment, you know, I could still hear all the partying and all the guys doing what they were doing. I just decided to do something different.
Hmm.
And I just forced myself to smile. Like it was like a cynical smile, like
Yeah.
a grin
Yeah.
almost. And when I did that, something changed in me.
Hmm.
Something big. And what that moment was I realized I controlled me. No circumstance, nothing to do with my surroundings.
As a 7-year-old, you're figuring this out.
Yeah. I said, you cannot break this. You could destroy my flesh, you could break my body, but you can't destroy my spirit.
Hmm.
I'm reflecting back on that now, but as a 7-year-old, I didn't know those words, right?
Yeah.
But I remember smiling, and I remember thinking about smiling. And I was like, it's so fresh in my head. I was like, nothing about this makes me happy. I'm not happy. Why am I smiling?
Yeah.
What do I have to be happy about? But my body felt better. My mind felt better. My situation felt better. And I said, if all I have to do is smile, and I just have to force myself to do it, and then I feel better, then I'm going to do that every single time.
You know, as adults now, we have a word for that. It's just a phrase for that. Embracing the suck,
Yeah, I've heard
So-
that a lot. Yeah.
right? So, I mean, that's horrific.
Yeah.
You embrace the horrific. So in that, where are you at? And we're going to jump forward now
Sure.
and then go back.
Yep.
What's your relationship like with your mom now?
It's good, but it's not great.
Okay.
And the reason I say that is I went through this journey of forgiveness, not understanding what forgiveness was, but I knew I needed to do it, right? Like I had this, I think of tar is the best way I could explain it in my spirit, of like I have all this tar or all this negative coating of looking back on my life and saying, that sucked. I don't like these people. Well, that tar is toxic to me, and I needed to get rid of it, and I needed some way to love or move forward or just
Okay.
just get rid of that nastiness that I had, right? I didn't want to like look at all my life's circumstances and then try to raise my kids, because we're pathological creatures, right? We repeat what we know.
Yeah.
It's just a part
Yeah.
of who we are.
Yeah.
But I don't want to recreate the habits that I was taught, because I want to be better.
So
Not-
you're saying, if I can simplify that maybe a little bit, are you saying you had to figure out a way to break the cycle?
I had to end generational curses for sure,
Wow.
1,000%. And in that, I knew the first thing I had to do was I had to like fix things with my relationship with my mom.
Hmm.
So it was crazy, and it's all God. I was the president's security detail when Obama was the president at the time. It was 2010. No, it was 2000. Yeah, it was 2010.
Time flies, man.
It's crazy. It was 2010. I was Obama's security detail in Hawaii. And I was like, dude, I know this place like the back of my hand. And I had a bunch of unconventional means of resources at my disposal. And I wanted to go find my mother's grave. is what I wanted to do.
Mm.
And I wanted to put a lay on it. I wanted to just move on. Well, come to find out, she's alive. And she's living right at the North Shore. And I just had this I wasn't even saved at the time, but I had this overwhelming like feeling of not just anger, rage, frustration, just being pissed off, but also love and sincerity and longing to be with. So like it's like oil and water. I didn't know which one to choose, and I decided to choose the latter of the two, and I wanted to go and hug her. I wanted to tell her I remember saying, if I'm going to put a lay on her grave, then I'm going to put a lay on her neck.
Wow. And a lay on the neck in Hawaiian culture, what does that mean?
It's a way to embrace you. It's a way to thank you.
Because when you get off an airplane in Hawaii,
yeah, it's a welcoming.
Yeah.
And we want to surround you with the floral note of what the island produces, right? We want you to feel like you were part of what we have, and we want to give it to you. We don't want you to have to go get it. We want to just give it to you. It's kind of like what Christ
paying
does.
It forward.
Paying it forward, right?
Yeah.
And so I found my mother. She was shocked. She couldn't even sit next to me. She couldn't look at me. And I just I wept a little bit, but I looked at her. I was like, what happened in the past happened in the past. Like, we're done. It's gone. It's like, let's just, from this moment forward, let's just move forward. Like, who cares? And her life was great. She's clean. She's sober. So we patched up things in a relationship, but it was Band-Aids, right?
Yeah.
And we talk about spiritual wounds, or we go down deep into, like, you ever heard of, like, Soho? And just because you forgive somebody, and it was what I learned, just because you say these things or you do the actions, it doesn't patch what happens inside.
Yeah.
True forgiveness happens when you forgive yourself.
Yeah.
And so forgiveness isn't for the other person. Like, I can't just say, hey, man, I forgive you for wronging me. Like, I have to let it go.
Yeah.
And I couldn't do that. Like, I had all these deep demons inside of me that I was holding on to with my mom. And it wasn't until I brought her back into my life. She was going through a really tough time. Her fiance or boyfriend for 20 years ended up passing away. And so she moved in with me. I took care of her. It was like this crazy 180 dichotomy flip of like, I don't like you. I shouldn't love you. But the Lord's telling me to bring you in. And I brought her in. And it was when I found out, and this is how the Lord works, victimhood is the cause of suffering. Like, once you can no longer be great if you're a victim. You cannot help anybody if you're a victim.
Yeah.
Right? When you're stuck in a victimhood mindset, all you do is grab.
It reminds me, Dash, of this concept that a mentor gave me once about a 2x4. So the 2x4, when you think about it, it's the basic structure of how we build our homes, right? Most homes have a lot of 2x4s in them, whether they're steel or they're wood. But in this wooden 2x4, the interesting thing is that, wood is permeable, but it's really strong, right? You can penetrate it, but it can hold up tons and tons of pressure and weight. And so this 2x4, when you think about being wronged, or you think about, hurts in our life, my mentor gave me this thought of saying, this 2x4 is you. The nail that I'm about to drive in it is a circumstance. Drive the nail in the 2x4. Well, we can go through life and pull that nail out, right? But what's still there?
The hole.
The hole. So the hole is the consequence of that nail going in. And what's interesting about it is that wood has a way of healing itself over time. That if you go back and look at that hole a week later, a month later, 2-3 years later, it's starting to close in. But there's still permeated, there's still a hole there, there's still penetration there. And what's interesting is that as a good craftsman of wood, a wood maker, we're going to call him God, he can come in with a little bit of putty and fill that hole and make it look like nothing ever happened. Unfortunately, we have this free will that God built in all of us, right? And that free will is we can choose to relive those issues and those bad things that happen to us and allow those to drive us down a repeatable path of, if that bad stuff happened to me, well, I'm just going to turn around and do it to other people.
Right.
Or you can choose a path of saying, you know what, I'm going to break the cycle of this bad behavior and I'm going to putty over this hole. I'm still going to embrace that it was there, but God is my putty. God is my redeemer, right? He can make that better for us if we allow that to happen in our lives. And, there may not be people that are listening to this can't relate because they don't have a relationship with God. But that relationship with God in your life, I know personally, when we think about it from a churchy term, that didn't happen till way later in life. But it sounds like you had a reckoning with God early on as a 7-year-old in the top of that closet, experiencing your own personal hell.
I was on a deployment, and we were off the east coast of Africa, and just getting after it, just doing what we were supposed to do. And one of my leadership, or one of a person in leadership, or I don't know how to put the term, someone that was my supervisor.
Yeah,
I guess that's the easiest way to draw this. My supervisor was he was a theologian, and he was studying apologetics. He was deep in the word of Christianity. And he would ask me these deep, profound questions about my religion. So I got adopted by the Wongs when I was 13 after growing up in foster care. And my mom ended up getting arrested, so we got separated. Then I ended up getting arrested for, it was being outside of curfew, right? 'Cause you're 10 years old walking the streets of downtown Honolulu as a child with a skateboard.
As kids do. Right?
Yeah, of course. We all do that. And so he's asking me these profound questions, okay? Why are you Buddhist? Why are you Hindu? Not in any derogatory mean, but just out of curiosity. And I remember him lying to me. And he said, I'm writing a paper on Hinduism. And I'm curious about your religion. And we still laugh about it to this day. I was like, you weren't writing no paper. He was like, no, I wasn't.
I think I know who this person is.
Yep.
All right.
And so I'm only going to draw this story to bring you back to a pool deck. And I remember I had this moment, this Jacob moment, where I was wrestling with God. And I was looking at my life, and I looked at him, and I was like, what kind of God are you? You want me to accept you into my life? And I went through all of this? It's like, I don't understand it. This is a type of love I don't get. And I laid down on my pool deck, and I wasn't filled with the Holy Spirit with love. I wasn't filled with the Holy Spirit with pride and holy, lifting, just glee and
Right.
glory.
Right.
You know what he filled me up with? Rage, anger, hurt, pain. He brought my entire childhood into my heart like this, in a flash of my eye. I was just enraged. I said, I don't like you. I don't get it. It's like, I'm still suffering as a 28-year-old right now with these scars, and now you just want me to accept you, and now everything's great. And I laid down on my pool deck, and I was thumping my fist at the sky. And I said, make this make sense. And in one moment, it probably lasted 3 seconds. It felt like a lifetime. The Lord pressed down into me, pinned me down to the deck, to the point where I couldn't move any of my extremities. And he showed me that child.
Wow.
And he showed me all these people that were around me. And he put words on my heart. And he said, I built you as a warrior. I put a flame in you that can't be extinguished. He said, you were meant to go through this, because if no one saw the light in that darkness, they would have never known the difference. He said, I was always with you.
Mm.
I never let you go. In that closet, I was there.
Mm.
That smile you got was from me. That was my glory. I will never let you go. And in that moment,
Yeah.
I said, so you are my dad.
Wow.
He's like, I am. I got you.
I think they put some onions in the ventilation system here.
No, it's pollen
It's
season
the pollen.
here.
The pollen.
Yeah.
Got it.
But when
Yeah.
when I reflect
awesome.
back when I reflect back on those moments, I don't have this sensation of like hallelujah, like God is good. I'm telling you He is, but I don't have this relationship that most people have, because I'm just built differently.
Mhm.
The Lord doesn't have me to go through this life with ease. He doesn't have my feet pillowed.
Mm.
He doesn't make the pathway clear for me. For my life, narrow is my pathway.
Mm.
Because I'm supposed to be that way. And He brought up this really like interesting perspective when I asked Him. I was like, it's like, Lord, I'm supposed to be love. I'm supposed to be forgiving. I'm supposed to be humble. I'm supposed to be meek.
Yeah.
He goes, no. He goes, when David came down from the mountaintops and all of these Philistines were going against my people, he said, he was tending flocks and sheep.
Hmm.
He was small. He was weak. They put armor on him that he couldn't carry. They gave him swords that he couldn't wield. And in that, I saw my weakness. I was like, I'm pretty weak. I'm pretty small.
Wow.
I look like Captain America before the serum when I joined the Navy. I was maybe 120 pounds wet, if I could put it right. He said, what did that guy do? It's like he chopped the head off of Goliath. He goes, not only did he's like, that's a circumstance of what he did. Like, that was the fight. But he's like, can you imagine the courage of standing up in front of not only his brothers, not only armies and kings, but he did it with nothing. He did it with the pure passion of knowing that God was with him and that nothing could come against him.
Wow.
He could die. And then he held up the head of Goliath, and then he became a king.
Wow.
He said, there are people in life there where everything is laid out for them because, we're meant to go through that phase of our lives. We're meant to love. We're meant to raise kids. We're meant to start great businesses and do outreaches and help nonprofits and help motivate people and inspire. And then there's people like me who we don't need any of those things. We're meant to be grungy. We're meant to be hard. We're meant to show other people that you have all these pleasures, you have all these things, because I'm willing to stand in front of the fire. I'm willing to be there and show you how powerful God is, because I'm willing to die for it. It says, blessed be the man who lays down his life for his brothers, right?
Yeah.
Not a lot of people have that opportunity, and it's not for everybody, right? It's not something to say, oh, I'm just going to go join because I love my country.
So do you feel like you found that in the Navy? So when you take this really ridiculous, crazy childhood, and thanks for sharing really raw stuff. I really appreciate that.
Yeah.
And I think it can help a lot of people understanding that bad things can happen and good can still come from that.
Yeah.
But if you can fast forward to at 17 years old, you enlist, and I know there's a criminal past. You got arrested. You've been
Well, that's what's nice about foster care.
You've been living out this life that your mom taught you, right? And
Sure.
all the influence that was around her. But then you went, and there was this family who kind of rescued you from that. Can you share the foster family experience?
Yeah. And thanks for structuring it that way. That's beautiful. I love how we're going back and coming forward. The Wongs, it's a ridiculous construct of my family lineage, if I could put it that way. Andrew Wong dated my biological mother when I was maybe 8. So not only was she into prostitution and stripping and doing all these things, then she met this, Japanese tatted up guy with long hair. And they fell in love. Then she broke up with him, broke his heart, wrecked him. That was the only father figure in my life that I ever knew. It was the only person or man that came into my mom's life that loved me, that took care of me, that bathed me, that fed me, that put nice clothes on me, that tried to like raise me with morality and help me out. And then when they broke up, all of that was gone.
Jeez.
So not only that was when they would go out on dates, Andrew would drop me off at his parents' house, which was the Wongs. So we had Nancy Wong, we had Daniel, we had all my aunts and uncles. All of a sudden I saw this family structure of people and they felt really bad for me, right? Because they're like, this kid's getting wrecked. So they'd buy me toys and take me out to these fancy dinners and whatnot. Or not fancy dinners, but cook me nice meals.
That's fancy, yeah.
Asian
McDonald's is fancy.
Asian food is
yeah.
delicious.
Yes.
I know I'm very Caucasian, but I love Asian. So that's kind of so when I was in foster care, after I got arrested, my mom got arrested, we got separated. I was in foster care. I remember my child protective service agent asking me if there's anybody that I knew. A friend of a friend, somebody. And I was like, I know the Wongs. And she's like, okay, that's a start. So she reached out to them. Within a moment, Andrew Wong dropped everything. They said, you can't adopt him unless you're married. He married his girlfriend on the spot within a month.
Are you serious?
I'm dead serious. Married his girlfriend, which just became my foster mom. So they're like, hey, we're married. We have an apartment. We'll adopt him. We'll take him in. So in that moment, I didn't start school till the 5th grade. The Wongs adopted me. So
Wait a minute. You hadn't gone to school before that?
Not at all. Not at all.
It's mind-blowing.
Yeah, it's rough. So like now I'm an idiot in school, but I'm really good at math. And why? Because I have to break change for all the tourists that I'm selling Lays to. I have to understand value.
She got some homeschool from your mom, right? She gave you some. No.
No, I got nothing. I could not read. I could not write. I couldn't do arithmetic. I couldn't write numbers. Like I didn't know these things. I remember it was so hard being adopted into the Wong family because I had a nephew in the Wong family. His name was Taylor Nakamura. And Taylor was 6 and I was 12. Taylor could read and I couldn't. Taylor could do math and I couldn't. Like Taylor could do all these things. I felt stupid.
Jeez.
And I felt ashamed of myself. But here's a really interesting contract. Like you could either choose to look at your circumstances and say, woe is me, or you can grind, right? You can say, if that's my competitor, I'm going to be better than that.
Yeah.
Right? If he's 6 years old and I'm 12 and I'm supposed to be better than that, game on. Let's go. So they raised me, and then I ended up graduating summa cum laude, and I'm getting a letter of recommendation from Linda Lingle, which was the governor of Hawaii at the time, to go to the Air Force Academy. Like I went full bore, like 1,000% in. And the reason being is because I wanted to make those people proud. Like they brought me into a family. I wanted to show them that I was worth it. I want to, and this was a hard construct of Christianity because I wanted to earn my way into something and pay it forward. I didn't want to accept suffering and just say, woe is me, like I deserve these things. I deserve nothing. I wanted to show people that because you decided to take a chance on me, I'm going to blow it up, and I'm going to give you tenfold, is what I wanted to do, because I was so thankful. I was so thankful because I had nothing.
Wow.
And now they gave me like whatever they had, which we weren't rich.
Yeah.
Right? We didn't have a great. I don't know how to explain it. We didn't have everything we wanted. Times were tough. My foster father worked his ass off as a tattoo artist to raise me. But because of that, I wanted to make him proud. And then that translated into my military career. Because not only did when I accepted my career pathway of being in special operations, like I did that for 6 years, and it wasn't enough for me.
So at 17, you graduated from high school?
I did, yep. Graduated a year early.
Summa cum laude.
Mm-hmm.
And before that, up until 5th grade, you couldn't read. You had some math skills. I'm still blown away that you figured out math on your own.
I'm so good at math now.
That's so awesome. Tell me now about the 17-year-old enlisting in the Navy. I mean, you got a recommendation from the governor. You didn't go to college then.
No.
You decided to enlist. What in the world got into your mind then?
It was driven on two factors. One was money. Because so I should be in the Air Force Academy. I actually had I had 60 hours of flight time going through Civil Air Patrol in high school. I was flying Cessnas before I could drive a car.
Nice.
I was so passionate about being in the military and having this. I remember having the structure of ROTC while I was going through high school, and I looked at it and I said, if this is my left and right lateral limits of construct of like what I'm supposed to do to perform, that's so easy. Because growing up with nothing, I didn't know where to go. I was like a feather lost in the wind. But now I had guidelines. And I said the path to success is just going down this pathway, and I just keep going while everyone quits and gives up. And if I keep going, then I become the best. It's like, game on. I could do that. I got so motivated in ROTC that I said, I have to join the military. I was like, this is where I go.
Yeah.
This is my pathway. And so my colonel of ROTC said, you're going to the academy. You're going to become an officer. You're going to be a pilot. I said, great. And then my best friend, we were in this program called Special Forces. And all that meant was we challenged the Army ROTC, or I should say JROTC, which is Junior ROTC. We would challenge the Army in rappelling, running, push-ups, sit-ups, swimming, right? He goes, I'm going to Buds. I was like, what's Buds?
Yeah.
He goes, I'm going to become a SEAL. What's a SEAL? Like, cool, man. He goes, it's the hardest, most glorified training program in the world. He said, if you graduate from this, no one can doubt your value. No one can doubt your worth. Holy shit. Are you kidding me? If I could do this, I become great. My family that adopted me can look at me with honors now. I want that. I want the prestige to give to them. I want them to look at me and say, oh man, that's our son. That's my grandson. Right? I didn't want to just be a pilot.
Yeah.
I didn't want us to be an officer. I want to be great. Well, that didn't work out. Hate to burst your bubble, but I was like, I'll go to Buds with you, man. Let's go. He goes, by the way, if we graduate, guess what we get? And it's like, a sweet pin? He's like, no, $60,000. 60 grand? I've never had money. Let's go. I go to MEPS. I remember getting laughed at by the recruiter, right? Because you're joining what's called spec warfare.
Right.
And he looked at me, and there's a certain standard. I'm a $110. I'm this scrawny dude. I'll send you some pictures of like what I looked like in high school, just so you can bring it up to the viewers so you can see it. I looked so weak and fragile, but I had something that no one else had. You could not break me. And so I went through this delayed entry program, right? I crushed the PT. I remember looking at everybody, and if someone did 60 push-ups, I did 65. If someone did 10 pull-ups, I did 12. I didn't let go of the bar until I did the extra 2. Even if it looked like crap, I still did it. And the best part was, if someone was running, I would run to the person that ran the fastest, and I would just stay right behind them. I would stay right on their heels until they broke down, because they knew I was right there. And my pace was ridiculous because it sounded like pitter-patter behind them, so they couldn't keep a rhythm. And once they gave up, I was gone. When I was swimming, I would swim right behind the next person. I would splash water next to them. So every time they came up for air,
It turned their face right into
I'd
your
splash water right in their mouth, and I'd crush them. And the guy goes, I think you have a knacking for this. I think you can do it. And I was like, I know I can. There's not a part of failure in me. It's like, I'm either going to die or I'm going to graduate. because I want the Wongs to look at me and be like, he did it.
Yeah.
Like I was driven on something else that no one else had. I didn't have a business to fall onto. I didn't have money to fall onto. I didn't have anything else. I didn't have a degree. I could have, but I didn't have that stuff. I just had something I wanted
The
to make.
boats were burned at the shore, huh?
Pretty much. I was all in.
Yeah.
All in. And then I got destroyed when I went to Great Lakes, right? I go through this delayed entry program. I make it to boot camp. I'm going through this training pipeline. You have permanent tubes in your ears. Like I had bad ear infections as a child. And then when I got adopted and I was in foster care, they found out I had like horrible, horrible drainage. So they put permanent tubes in my ear. They're like, you can't be a SEAL.
Oh, jeez.
You can't dive. I was like, no, I could dive. I could do it. Like, no, you can't. Like, you cannot do this. I said, well, what's the next? What do I do? I'm going in to special operations.
Yeah.
They're like, you can go EOD, which is bomb disposal ordnance, explosive ordnance disposal, or you can go Swick. And I looked at it and I was like, Swick. It's like, if I can't kick down the doors with my brothers, then I'm going to take them there.
That's awesome.
And that's how I started my military career.
Wow.
That,
So, in sake of time, we're going to fast forward through this. And by the way, this is information that's going to be in your first book, right?
yeah, it's going to be called Smiling in Hell.
Smiling in Hell.
Mm-hmm.
Any estimate of when that's going to get released?
Just finished. I have 2 more chapters. So,
Okay.
I don't know when it's going to be released. My publisher is going to have all of it constructed. So I'm hoping, well, I guess I won't say hoping. I know it will be done by the end of this year. So
Okay.
it's 2022 or it's 2023. Gosh, where does time go? So I'll have it done before December.
So Dash Wong, Smiling in Hell. Be on the lookout for it. When that gets released, we'll do either another show, or we'll do a big party or something.
All right.
Be fun. So you make it through Swick. You get through training. You can't be a SEAL, but you make it to Swick. You stay in the Swick community for how long?
15 years.
Okay. Why 15? What happened?
Well, it was on my 13th year. I just re-enlisted. And that was a hard part of my career. I just lost the first ever guy in combat.
Mm.
So I watched one of our brothers get buried and bring him home. We had to bring the casket home. It wrecked me.
Jeez.
Not only did it wreck me, it motivated me. Like
Yeah.
I want to go in. I was already hard. I want to go in way harder. I was fueled up, and my brother Chad Wright. Hopefully, you get to meet him. He's a SEAL. He said, hatred is a dirty fuel. It works, but once it's gone, your carburetor's toxic.
Mm. You got the residue.
You got the residue. I was fueled by hatred after that happened because I wanted to instill vengeance into my enemies. And then I got cancer. I got diagnosed with stage 2 adenocarcinoma, 3 massive tumors in my right lung, sitting right next to my lymph nodes. The doctor said the next step of this would turn into brain cancer. Once the cancer cells metastasize and hit your lymph nodes, it spreads to your brain. You go from stage 2 to stage 4. He said, we don't have time for chemo. We don't have time for radiation. We need to cut this out. Long of the short, fast forward 18 months. I got my right lung removed. I bled out internally, became severely anemic, and then I got diagnosed with extreme post-thoracotomy syndrome, which is your foot ever go to sleep? You get that pins and needles in your foot, and then you can't move it, you can't touch it. Well, from the bottom of my right rib cage to the top of my clavicle, they had to Dremel my entire chest cavity out because of the blood clots. So it's all my nerves in my chest are stuck in the on position.
Jeez.
And then on top of that, now I have one lung. I remember being I was always fired up. I remember saying, if I have cancer, I'm going to be the balded, no eyebrow, no mustache dude on deployment looking at everybody saying, you pussies, let's go. What do you got to complain about? Look at me. I want to be this fire. I want to be a force multiplier in my team. I just want to make people proud. I want to install something in people. I want them to see that they're worth more, even if it's the sacrifice of my own flesh. I was totally cool with that. I was beaten like ridiculously. So let's keep going, because I get a sense of belonging. I get a huge rush when I see people crushing their goals.
Yeah.
When I bring people with me and I see them get to the top.
It's a great attitude. Celebrate others. It'll actually help elevate yourself.
Yeah. It's service before self, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And that's what we're installed in the military. And then I get a letter from the Navy saying you breathe at less than 50% capacity, you can no longer serve.
You breathe at 50% less capacity than...
So the minimum standards to be in the United States military is you have to breathe 78% O2 saturation, lung capacity, volume.
Okay.
I was less than 50. And I remember they said you have 6 months to retest. And if you want to see a driven, determined individual who's already made it to the top and now he has to fight to stay there, my wife didn't even know who I was. That's how bad it was. I was walking 5 miles a day. I was coughing blood. I was still bleeding from my stitches. I said, I will grow this lung. I will get stronger. I will not get kicked out. I'm not going to give up. But there's some times in life where no matter what you do, you're not supposed to be there anymore. It's time. You got another pathway, right? You got another thing in life. And I'm only looking at that at retrospect of looking back at my life now. Because I tell you right in that moment, like I can still feel that moment. I would have given everything just to be on one more deployment, just to go one more time. But now looking at where I'm at now, I wish I could tell myself, let it go.
Yeah.
Let it go. It's okay. I got medically retired from the military at the top tier level of special operations. I was the best of the best of the best. And now I had nothing. My identity that I poured everything into, my sense of being, my sense of belonging, my brotherhood, everything that I've invested into was gone.
Yeah.
I wrote about this. I said the brotherhood that I held on to turned into the cousinhood. The family that I once had, that I was adopted into, kicked me out.
Yeah. You know, man, I remember you came over to my office as you were going through this. And I remember us having a conversation. One of the things that stuck with me was belief systems. And you and I were talking about that. And I was, doing some coaching with you. And one of the things I feel like you really grabbed onto was this thought process of beliefs drive behavior. The way you believe will drive your behavior. Behaviors drive relationships. Relationships drive results. And you are a result-driven dude. And your belief system about, hey, I've got nothing left but to give more. All I can do is just stay in the game and stay true to yourself and stay true to, and it sounds a little cliche-ish when you say stay true to yourself, but you were really driven. And that's one thing that I admire about you, is that you've got a drive unlike very few people on the planet. And it's indicative of the community that you've been a part of.
Sure.
But you didn't let the circumstance of bad things happening to you drive your behavior. You allowed the bad thing happening to you drive the behavior of greater choices and greater opportunity to follow through on what you saw as the end state, which is being a better version of yourself.
Empowering others, yeah.
Empowering others.
Kind of, we can touch base on cold plunging, right?
Yeah.
A lot of those attributes that you just talked about have every step and phase of cold plunging.
Yeah.
Right? It's not just getting in cold water. It's the ability to break yourself down to do what you don't want to do, but you have to do it. But also on top of that you can do it.
Yeah.
Your circumstances don't dictate how you react.
Yeah.
Just because I'm a beaten child and I'm in hell, I can still have my joy. I can still have my 10
Yeah.
seconds of clarity. When I get into that cold tub, when I plunge, I'm doing it for nerve damage and inflammation, but I'm also doing it to make sure that that cold water doesn't dictate how I react
Yeah.
to situations. I can control myself. I can control.
Yeah. We were talking about this morning is attitude dictates your altitude.
Yeah.
Right. So if you've got a great attitude in the circumstances of where most people would just cower under the stress of their circumstance, if you put yourself in that mindset of, this is hard right now,
Mm.
and it's either going to kill me, so then you won't know any better, right? Or it's going to make me better and make those around me better. So your attitude about where you're at will determine the altitude of where you live. And what's crazy, Dash, is that you live at a high altitude now with one lung.
Yeah. That
Right.
is interesting.
And you shouldn't be there, right?
No.
Medically, you shouldn't be there, but you're winning at that. And what's really cool, if we can take the last few minutes of our time today and share about what happened to you yesterday. You came to church with me, and there was a guy who was part of the brotherhood. Do you mind sharing this? Do you mind
No,
talking
that's-
about it? It was encouraging for me to see how God works. Like when I think back about you and I re-engaging and having a conversation about, man, you know what? Let's share the story of what you've gone through to encourage others that, hey, it's no matter what, it's going to be okay.
Yeah.
As long as you have the belief that drives the behavior. And if you take your circumstance as a young 7-year-old boy, many people fall victim in victimhood to the bad things that happen to them. But you have a choice in that. And you made a choice to say, I'm not going to allow this circumstance to dictate my continued poor choice or poor behavior. I'm going to break the cycle. And you did that. And that led me to say, you know what? I've seen Dash live this out in his life. I want to share your story with as many people that can hear it. But I was encouraged yesterday, sitting in church. You came to church with us, and you called me. It's like, hey, man, I want to go to church on Sunday. I think Kat told you. It's like, well, Dash is in town. Let's use that as an excuse to not go to church. Saying we'll just hang out and fellowship with Dash at home.
Yeah.
But you encouraged me to say, hey, let's go worship together in a community of other believers.
That's crazy.
Yeah. And so we go to church together. And then a guy named Dave Schultz, we'll give a shout out to Dave, gets up and he has a word. And you and Dave really at the moment didn't remember that you had a community together, didn't know each other. He didn't recognize you.
I didn't recognize him either.
So you pick up with that and tell what happened.
Yeah, so we walk into service. Your pastor knew me from a couple years ago. The church was at a different location. They were borrowing a spot. What a spirit-filled, like, prophetic church. I just love it. There's no constructs of left and rights, right? It's just all in for the Lord. And I remember hearing the worship. We showed up late. We got some croissants, like we're doing our thing. We walk into service, and I'm just like, man, the worship. I remember thinking to myself, the worship's still going.
Yeah.
Right? Normally you have 20 minutes of
The
worship.
run sheet. Right?
Yeah, you got your 20 minutes, then you do your openings, and right?
Right.
Everyone's still worshiping, man. Let's go. So we get in there, and I guess I have to build this up real quick. I got diagnosed with degenerative lung disease in 2021. My left lung is struggling to keep up, and the doc said, like, with the trajectory of this graph, and all this data, right? Life expectancy is probably around 5 years. You need to stay home. You need to sit down. You need to bring in a rebreather, a concentrator. You need oxygen bottles, all this stuff. That's so much stress on my wife, so much stress on my family. But I do not accept it, right? Like I'm gonna keep pushing. I'm just different. I'm stubborn. I'm like a Neanderthal. You keep beating me down. I'm gonna keep going until I'm finally dead.
Yeah.
but I'm going to make you proud. I'm going to make whoever's around, I'm going to lift everybody up. So I'm still struggling with this weight of this diagnosis. And we get into worship, and I start worshiping the Lord. And I feel his presence on me, which when the Lord comes on, when the Lord pours into me, I get like goosebumps.
Yeah.
Like all the hair on my arm stands up. I feel this buzzing in my head. I know it. I know what that is now. Like once you learn to accept what's going on, you can build these patterns and these habitual patterns of how the Lord works. And I said, "Oh Lord, you're here." It's like I started running after him. It's like, man, I love this feeling. I missed you. It's like your dad grabbing onto you, giving you a hug. It feels so good to be there. You can't hug you forever. You got to let him go, right?
Yeah.
But I was getting that hug. And I was like, man, I love this. And the Lord brought up a vision. And all of a sudden, I was holding 2 books in my hands. I was holding my med record of all my diagnoses and all my injuries and ailments and disabilities, right? I had a doctor standing in front of me, and he was shaking his head, and in my spirit, I knew what he was saying. Like, it's grim, it's dark, you're gonna die. And in my other hand, I was holding a Bible. And I don't mean to sound cliche, you know, the Word of God is life.
Yeah.
And I remember looking at the 2, and the Lord put his hand on my right shoulder, and he said, "Your life's not written in their book. It's written in my book.
Wow.
You're done when I say you're done. And you come home when I say you come home." He said, "Don't look at that book. Look at mine. Read my words, not theirs."
So good.
So now taking that, I'm worshiping, man.
Right.
I'm on fire. Yes, this is good. It's like, this is why I'm supposed to be here. When 2 or more are gathered in my name, there I will be.
Yeah.
And I prophesy that because you and I are brothers.
Yeah.
And we've never actually worshiped like that together.
Yeah.
But I wanted to for some reason.
Yeah.
I was like, "Kenny, I know I'm supposed to come out Sunday. Let's do Saturday. I'll fly all night Saturday. I'll get to your house real late, and we can go worship." I don't know what came over me. I missed you.
Yeah.
And now I got that vision. I got that Holy Spirit fire on me. I could hear you singing on the side, and brother, you sound good. You sound good. And I'm like, Kenny's singing. I'm singing. Let's go.
That's funny.
And then the worship ends, and this guy walks up, and he is a mess. He's just a stuttering mess.
Choked up, can barely get the words out.
Cannot speak.
Yeah.
Words cannot come out of his tongue because he is overwhelmed with the Spirit. The Lord you have 3 parts of your body, and I don't care if you're a believer or not. Right? The New Age movement says mind, body, and soul. It's totally wrong. No, your flesh, your spirit, and your soul.
Yeah.
Your flesh is just an external vessel. Your soul is the essential part of you. That is who God made.
Yeah.
The spirit is a vessel that sits next to your heart of what you fill up.
Yeah.
You could have all the spirits in the world.
It's good, man.
Until you have the Holy Spirit, you'll never understand it. Not only was the Holy Spirit poured into his vessel, it filled his entire flesh. His lips could not work. And why do I know that? Is because I've done it. I've been in his spot. I've stood in front of churches, and I've had to share my testimony in front of people, and I couldn't speak because the Lord kept pouring into me where I told him, "Enough. I'm too full. Let me say this. Let me pray for this person, and then we can keep pouring into me." Because what does he do when he pours into you? He wants you to pour that out into people, right? He's like, it's like the sermon of the talents, right? 10 talents to one, 5 to the other, 1 to the other, right? If he gives you that 1, he gives you that 5, he gives you that 10, it's meant to pour onto others, not to hold to yourself and hide under your bed. So I'm looking at this guy, and I'm like, looking at him, and he's not looking at me. He's looking at I don't know what he's looking at. And he's like, the Lord.
He was talking about his anniversary with his wife, 10-year anniversary.
And he starts stuttering, and I remember just praying into it. I was like, "You got this, brother." I was like, "You can do this." I was like, I remember telling him, I was speaking in the Spirit. I was like, "Just cry. Let it out. No one cares. Take your time. I don't care if we're here for an hour. You got a message that the Lord," I was like, "I know it's from the Lord because I know that Spirit.
Yeah.
I know what you're feeling. So take all the time." And what does he do? He collects himself. He composes himself. He does a left face, and he points directly at me.
Just like that.
And I'm like, I'm wearing this American flag white collared T-shirt, and
Yeah.
he goes, "The Lord put this message on my heart, and it's for you in the American flag T-shirt." And I knew I was wearing the shirt. I knew he was pointing at me, but I just did that dumb look, right? Looked
Oh,
at
yeah.
my shirt. It was like,
Oh, me?
"Oh, me?" And the Lord smacked me. He's like, "Yeah, it's you."
Yeah.
And I stared at him. And I just had this prophetic vision from the Lord, right? Your life's written in my book. You're done when I see you're done. You come home when I see you come home. And what does Dave say? You're healed.
Yeah.
I don't know him. He doesn't know me. He doesn't know I have one lung. He doesn't know I'm supposed to die in 3 years, right? He doesn't know my circumstance. He doesn't know my struggles. But the Lord does. He just prophesied on my life in front of the whole church. And the pastor knows my life because I've
Yeah.
already shared my testimony with him. He knows I went through cancer. And what does Dave say? Your cancer is gone. Your pain is gone. You are healed.
Yeah.
Where does that
And
come from?
This comes from a dude who experienced life-threatening cancer himself,
Wow.
miraculous healing.
Yep.
And so I think God places on people who have had experiences and has had those struggles can minister to people and can lift up people who have gone through or going through similar circumstances. And I just thought it was an amazing miracle moment that you don't get to see many of those.
No.
And I feel blessed and honored to be a part of that moment they had. It's pretty cool.
I guess in
It's
closing,
really
of this,
cool.
I don't even feel like we're on a podcast right now because this is so magical.
Yeah.
I can't say magical, right?
Yeah, magic's cool, man.
There's just so much. There's so much divinity and there's so much
Yeah.
of God's hand on this that I just want to say, no matter where we go in life, no matter what you do, as long as your eyes are focused on the kingdom, everything happens the way He wants it to happen.
Yeah.
Everything works out. But it's the Jonah moment.
Yeah.
And this is what I was supposed to say. And I've been struggling with this Jonah moment for 6 years of my life. The Lord's told me what to do. I've had multiple people prophesy over my life that you're going to speak in front of thousands upon thousands, and you're going to affect the lives, and you're going to heal scars, and you're going to heal generational curses through your testimony, through what I've done in your life. I run away from it because I feel like I'm not ready. I'm terrified of it because when you speak about the Lord, there's consequences on your life.
Yeah.
You are judged differently. You're looked at differently. I do not want to dishonor the Father. I do not want to say something wrong. I do not want to stand up in light that's not in His glory. I do not want to build myself up to be something that I'm not.
Yeah.
So I hesitate so much.
Yeah.
And this was that Jonah moment where He says, once I spit you out onto the shores and you walk on my path and you tell people the message, it's done. You just have to do it. You just have to go forth.
Yeah.
You have to accept what I've called you to do. And
It's what we would call doing hard things if we want to simplify it, right? Oversimplify it.
I think that sums it up perfectly. But once you understand that your footsteps were ordained by God, that where you go in life are pushed by Him, but it's not a forced love.
Yeah.
It's out of disobedience, or not dis. It's out of obedience, not disobedience. It's out of discipline.
Sometimes the disobedience turns into delayed gratification.
Yeah, they kick you off the boat and throw you into the ocean, and you get swallowed up by a whale.
Yeah.
Isn't
And then God spits you out on the shore you're supposed to be on anyway.
that crazy? But I love these moments because I'm going to reflect back on them and say, I can't deny you. I can't say you were not working in my life. It's impossible because I'm an analyst. I look at theoretical odds and the statistics of Intel packages. My job as lead navigator and head communicator was to build an operational op board and timeline of construct towards my enemy to destroy them, and everyone depended on me. The Lord has already done that in my life. He says, all you have to do is just follow.
Wow.
it's undeniable. You cannot just say, "Hey, instead of flying me out Sunday night, I'm going to come out. I want to come out Saturday and worship you and have somebody prophesy that's never talked to you about your life that you were healed." Confirmation is so beautiful. It's rare, but it's for those who are ready for it, right?
Yeah.
It's for those who see it, and God just pours into people, and I just love it.
I think this is just a prelude to what we're going to get back together and share more with the audience and those who want to hear the rest of your story. And the unfortunate benefit of time and schedule, we've got to shut it down today. But I want to be able to have you back, and it could be before your book release or after. But I'd love to get you back to share the rest of your story, and then also just let people know if they want to follow your journey, how can they get hold of you? Where can they follow you at? Instagram, you and I. Is that the main place you spend time, is on Instagram? Socially?
It is right now, yeah. So Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, it's all my name, Dash Wong.
All right. Dash Dong, D-O-N-G?
D-U-O-N-G.
D-O-U-N-G.
Yeah. And then
Wong.
I'm gonna hit up this production studio is just immaculate and impressive. So I'm definitely gonna touch base with Jordan.
I set a vision and just said, "Hey, can you guys fulfill it for me? Tell me what we need."
Well,
they did it.
They went overboard.
Yeah.
This is amazing.
Yeah.
I want to have a platform like this. I need to start speaking more. I want to speak into people's lives. I want to tell them that your circumstances don't dictate who you are.
Yeah.
And I want to empower people. I want to pour in the Spirit into other people, and I'm ready. So I'm going to build a platform. Hopefully, and then I'll start building shortwave content on YouTube, which will still be under my name, Dash Wong. And we're definitely going to get back together.
Yes. Hey, thank you so much for allowing us to share Dash's story with you today. Just the beginning. There's so much more that we can unpack here. I'm not going to pull the Joe Rogan and go 3 hours today. We're going to break it up into segments, and we'll have you back.
Awesome.
And just keep an eye out. Give Dash Wong. It's so crazy saying your name.
It's
this
bad
white kid over here that
I
has
laugh
this
at my
beautiful
own
Asian
name. And we have a beautiful wife, and we have 2 kids, and we always say 2 whites made a Wong.
So awesome. By the way, your son is an amazing Rubik's Cube champion.
Yes.
And he's how old?
Dash Jr. is 8 years old.
8 years old.
He's fifth. He's got the 5th fastest time in the state of Colorado, and he's going to the national championships in May to finally compete. So he has an unofficial time of 12 seconds, and in May he's going to compete and have his times logged for the first time ever. Beautiful brain.
Jax, we don't want to leave Jax out. Jax is
just as impressive, but in a different nature. He is fearless.
Yeah.
Fearless. The kid's doing backflips and back handsprings, self-taught, like BMXer, hitting huge jumps. It's bad because I did that as a kid, and now watching my children, and I'm sure you can help elaborate on this. When you watch your children do terrifying things, I feel bad because I'm yelling, "Slow down! Stop it! Don't hit it so hard! Don't jump off of that." Whereas I was a kid, I was like, "You're telling me I'm doing this,
no
right?"
Fear.
Then my wife is the most phenomenal person in the entire world.
Great.
She's the main reason I'm still alive. I'm healthy. She's a holistic health coach. She loves the Lord. And I love what she's doing with this whole trend of like yoga and stretching. She's like, those practices have different belief systems of whatever you believe in, but she's bringing Christ into that, and it's so powerful. It's so beautiful to watch her grow, and I'm just blessed, man. I'm blessed. I don't know where God's going to take me in the next chapter, but wherever it's going to be, it's going to be good.
Dude, you're an amazing human being. Thank you for coming out and sharing with everyone the beginning of your story. It's nowhere near the end. God's got a lot of opportunity to take you and continue to mold you and continue to have a massive impact on other people, and I believe he's going to do that. And I'm just excited to know you and be a part of it in a little small microcosm of your life. It's awesome to be your friend.
Oh, we're family.
Yeah, man. Family for sure.
Well, thank you, Kenny.
That's cool. Thank you, brother. We love you, man.
Love you too, man.
Appreciate your spirit. All right. We'll see you soon. Give Dash Wong a follow on Instagram, and we'll keep you posted on his soon-to-be released book. And tell me the title again.
Smiling in Hell.
Smiling in Hell. You can't forget that, and I did. old brain here. So, all right, brother. Have a great day.
Thank you.
All right. So we were just talking. I forget always to do this thing we're supposed to do. What is it?
Hey, share some love. If you like this content, if you've listened to the whole episode, make sure you like, make sure you subscribe. And not only that, if this touched your life or is ring true to you in any type of way, make sure you share it with somebody that might need to hear this message. Or
We'd love to hear it too.
or
We'd
get
love to
that-
hear your.
yeah, we'd love to hear your comments in the comments below, and we'd love to reach out to you. So don't be a stranger. Hit that like button.
Thank you. All right.